Hello, captains. This is Kent again, and welcome to the Flight Show. So, this week I'm doing something just a little bit different. I thought I would load up an aircraft and just go on some VFR flying, and I thought a really good place to do that was Southern California. I have just bought a copy of Terraflora, which is the new program that is replacing all the default trees in Flight Sim, not Flight Sim World rather, but Flight Simulator and Prepared 3D. So I thought I'd give it a try and just go around, fly, and talk to you about a few things that might have been on my mind. So I already have our flaps and ready for takeoff. Let's see here, gotta get our trim set. Should have done that before it was moving, but hey, okay. Alright, so now we will get underway. So we're taking off from K-Sand, or San Diego International, and we're just going to get on the runway here and go for a nice little VFR flight. So, thus far I can tell you that I'm rather impressed with Terraflora. It's interesting because I was really happy with Orbix trees, but the program was a little bit dated. So I thought, well, maybe, a newer program, maybe they've tweaked some things and, optimized it for better frame rate, so why don't we give it a try? And I've actually been pretty satisfied with it. You'll get a chance to see things pretty soon. This is Latin VFR's San Diego International Airport, just so that you know. Give you a chance to peep it out and everything. One of the things that I kind of wanted to do today is, and as I reiterate, I kind of have my show geared towards people who are new to Flight Simulator or flight simming in general. So I like to point out some things that might benefit you if you're new or a novice, just so that you can kind of get into Flight Simulator and enjoy it more. So, because I think a lot of the guys that do a lot of the shows, they make the assumption that a person knows a lot of things, and maybe, it's like, even seeing it, it's like, cool, it's cool, but I have so many questions on how to get there. So that's kind of where I am. I'm dealing with the basics. And so one of the basics that I wanted to deal with today is just, how can you enjoy Flight Simulator right now? I mean, without necessarily having to purchase some things. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I have quite a few things on here that are running. I have Ultimate Scenery Mesh. I have Orbix Global, along with Vector and North American Land Class. So there's a lot going on to make it look nice. And, I have to say, let's bring our flaps up here. One thing I'll give X-Plane is that out of the box, they have really good looking scenery without you having to necessarily invest a ton of money into it. But what I did kind of want to give you is, if you have a goal, this is kind of what you're looking for out of Prepared, particularly Prepared 4. Now, as I said, how do you get to enjoy it right now? Well, I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who has a lot of bells and whistles in the scenery, so I want you to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But just the other day, I was really just happy with the eye candy. I was really taken by what I was seeing, and I just decided to do some, VFR flying and just see where it takes me. And, I was rather taken. I was like, wow. Because if you think about it, if you were a general aviation pilot and you were doing some VFR flying, this is what you would do. Because unlike when you're doing IFR, in VFR you can go pretty much where you want to. You don't have to say, well, I'm going here, I'm taking this route, and I gotta be where I'm going. You can fly around and sightsee. And so that's the really cool thing about VFR flying. Well, to that point, if you have your flight simulator and you've got your general scenery going, well then, hey, get out there and investigate. Look, enjoy the eye candy, enjoy the flight sim world, because I don't know, just some reason I decided to just fly around, and I was really enjoying just flying around. I mean, I really enjoy study level aircraft and loading up PMDG 737 or 747 and going through flight procedures And I enjoy that. I really do. But every now and then, I like general aviation aircraft where you're just getting out there and flying and enjoying the world, which is what you would do before you even got to the point that you could fly a 737 or a 747 anyway. So one of the things I'm going to suggest, because there are not a lot of videos that I've noticed that get out there and say it, enjoy your simulator. Grab your one day. Just grab your a nice general aviation aircraft that you enjoy. Find a place that you like to fly, and go fly. Now here's the funny part. I like flying through Southern California because there's a lot to see. But generally, as far as the United States is concerned, I've been to Southern California a few times. I didn't really care for it all that much. Not so much that it's a bad place. I just don't think the experiences that I had were great ones. And so it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, that's pretty, but I'll be glad to get home. But there was a time I guess I did have a relatively decent time. I wasn't really there for sightseeing. I was there for work, and I try to get out when I'm out somewhere to investigate. But all this is to say, I really do enjoy flying in Flight Simulator or Prepared in Southern California because, as I mentioned earlier, there's a whole lot to see. So if you're trying to figure out, okay, I have this simulator, I like flying, but after a while you kind of want goals or things to do, I highly encourage you to break out SkyVector. Go to skyvector.com and look at their maps and see how good you can, dead reckoning and engage in dead reckoning and VFR navigation. Especially when you've invested in a bit of your regional scenery. If you remember one of my earlier tutorials, I said if you're going to do general aviation, get you some good airports and some regional scenery. And then fly around that regional scenery and see if you can navigate it. Can you find recognizable objects? Can you, get around and not die? Because theoretically, if you were, flying a real airplane, if you got yourself in trouble and you needed to land, bad weather comes in, or you're running out of fuel, you need to get to somewhere and land. So being able to navigate is crucial. So this is a great time to practice and just enjoy the scenery around you. So that's what I'm doing. And I really work hard not to be like the fanboy reviewer, but I have to tell you that if there is one program that I do not have any buyer's remorse on, was buying the professional edition of Prepared 3D version 4, because the license is for people who want to simulate, and I really do enjoy simulating flying using Prepared 4. I haven't gotten X-Plane 11 yet, and I really feel, to be fair, I need to try it, but the eye candy and the visuals are just amazing. I've waited years to kind of get to this level. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to have the highest of the highest end computers, a computer to be able to run Prepared 4 and really nicely now. Really nicely, that's such bad grammar. I just mean to say that you can have a decent system. Like, as I mentioned before, you can look at my specs. I'm running a 4970K unlocked, overclocked CPU, and I'm using not the top of the line, it's a GTX 1060 NVIDIA card, and I'm locked in at 30 frames per second for recording, but if I wasn't recording, I could be getting anywhere from 30 to 40, 50 frames per second. And once you're at 30 frames per second, your eye is not going to distinguish beyond it, so you can get some really smooth flight and get some beautiful visuals, of which I'm showing you out of my cockpit right now. So again, just get in your plane, get a plane that you really like to fly. Ooh, here's a secret. I did not know this until I looked at it on the internet. So if you were a fan of Flight Simulator and then you moved over to Prepared, there may be a couple of planes that you kind of liked the default aircraft. I don't know why, but I think maybe it's because I've flown it so much. I had a little bit of an affinity for the Cessna 172. That is one of the few planes that you could copy over from Flight Simulator and paste it in your airplanes folder for Prepared 3D 4, and it works just fine. I can't do it with all of them, but you can do it with that. I mean, you could go ahead and buy A2A's Cessna 172, but for the professional, that is not a small investment. So if you just like the airplane and want to get in and fly it, go ahead and you have Flight Simulator, Steam Edition or Flight Simulator 10. Just go ahead and copy it over to Prepared and do your thing. Shh, I won't tell anybody, but I really enjoy doing it. So again, I'm just kind of flying around and enjoying things. Now, what's kind of interesting, right now the plane is guiding to the left. That's the weather, and when you have really smooth frame rates, you do get a better representation of the feel of flying, and I think the frame rates help that. As I understand it, X-Plane 11 has a little bit better of a flight model, but if you really have your computer optimized and your frame rates, you're going to get a better sense of feeling and perspective and depth from flying Prepared 3D version 4. Haven't given up on version 3, but once you get to version 4 and you don't have to worry about out-of-memory errors, you probably aren't going to go back. I'm just going to be real with you. But anyway, so again, invest in a region that you know you'd like to fly, and then get you a nice general aviation aircraft and fly. All I can say is that even those that like study level aircraft and doing the airliners, you can appreciate the beauty of a fully rendered scenery. So right now I left, as you know, San Diego, and I'm flying north towards Los Angeles, and I'm not necessarily sure where I am just yet, but I'm going to look here at SkyVector, and I know that I'm heading somewhat northwest. So I'm going to grab a beacon. Let's see, Oceanside is at 1530. So let's go ahead and get a hold of that navigation beacon so I can get a general idea as to where I am. Okay, I'm on that radial, and it's on. Let's see here. Right now I'm saying it's behind me. Yeah, let's see. I'm just turning here. Okay, there we go. Alright, so then we're going to hit the nav button, and we'll just head towards that VOR, and that'll give you an idea as to where we are. There we go. Okay, so it's still ahead of me. Good. And so again, those are kind of the challenges. Put yourself somewhere and see if you can navigate and find things. There is a huge sense of accomplishment when you find that you can navigate and use your radio beacons and the tools that are in a simple Cessna aircraft. It's very satisfying, and hopefully if you get to fulfill your dreams of maybe having a pilot's license one day, this is great practice. So hey, again, I'm really encouraging you, get in and just do some VFR flying. But do some VFR flying with the regional scenery. It'll help the immersion into the experience. And don't worry, if it's expensive, I know. Take your time. You don't have to have it all at once. Start off with FS Global. FS Global, going from the default scenery to FS Global is very noticeable, and I think you wouldn't be upset with it. And then after that, you could go and get your land class, which would be North America, if you like flying in America. If you're from Europe and you want to fly in Europe, that's fine. If you are from South America and you want to fly in South America, that's fine. Get the land class for whichever region you're in. I have land class for Europe, for North America, and for South America, and I really like all three, and which one I fly in depends on the mood I'm in. If I kind of like an urban area that's also a mix with vegetation, which, by the way, remember, this is Terra Flora, trees that you have here. If you like that urban mix, then I kind of like the whole flying in the area of Chicago and the general area of Southern California. If I really want a vegetation and flying over rolling hills and deep forestry, I like flying in South America. If you kind of want just, I don't know how to describe it, but some quaint forestry, particularly when you're flying in the fall, then I like flying in Europe, particularly in Middle England, flying in Germany. Really nice trees and seasonal appearance. Oh, and a really good place to fly is also Innsbruck. Not even just doing the challenging approach, but just flying in the valley through Innsbruck when you have your scenery on point. Oh, it's visually stunning. I also encourage that. Well, I know I didn't have anything too gripping to talk about. I just kind of wanted you to maybe get a little idea of what I was enjoying this weekend. I've been working a lot, so I haven't been able to get these videos out as regularly as I like. But I wanted to just unwind and everything, so I got in my simulator and started doing some generation flying, and I just looked around and I was like, wow, this is really nice. So I wanted to share it with you, and I was wanting to suggest it. Oh, see, now here, the cloud level is kind of low, and you see us just barely skimming through the clouds. And so if you have, and remember I suggested it, if you can get your weather, go ahead and grab Hi-Fi's Active Sky Next, because it particularly 2016 for prepared, Active Sky Next for prepared 3D version 4, if you have version 4. If you're running prepared or flight simulator, get it for your appropriate simulator. But the effects are really cool, and when you're just under the cloud level and some of the clouds wisp by, let me tell you, nice, really nice. So all that is to say, I want you to enjoy your flight simming experience. Oh, and I noticed in some of the comments on my channel, some people were asking, am I really a real pilot? Because it seems as though from the discussions that I give, it led to you asking the question. As sorry as I am to say, I do not have my pilot's license. I have flown. I wanted to get my pilot's license, but I couldn't do two things at once. I had to either finish my doctorate or get my pilot's license. And for longevity's sake, I felt for my career, getting the doctorate had to take priority. So it's not something that I have done yet, but the way I have fulfilled my fix in love of aviation is that I really invested in my flight simulator, such that I could, if I wanted to fly, I could enjoy my simming, and I try to make it as immersive as possible. So it, obviously nothing will take the place of really being in an airplane. But at the same time, the benefit that I have from doing flight simming is that if I crash, I can hit reset. No mistakes in real aviation. So all of that being said, I am not a licensed pilot, no. But I do appreciate the compliment, because I work hard at understanding a lot of things, but not only just understanding it for myself, but understanding in a way that I can help explain it to others so that they can enjoy their flight simulation experience like I do. It was a long road getting to where I am in terms of what to buy, what peripherals to get, how to build a computer so that it could run Flight Simulator, or in this case, Prepared 3D, at a smooth rate without what I used to call the chop. It is never fun trying to land a plane with chop or low frame rates. I wanted people to not necessarily have to make the mistakes that I made, and which is why I targeted this audience. And I think maybe even veterans may have something to learn. I think we all have something to learn from each other, because as many years as I've been doing this, and I've been doing this since I was, I've been flight simming since I was in high school. Which I won't even go into all the programs I used to be in, like Microprose, F-117. Oh yeah, that's going back in the day. Falcon 4.0. Woo, love those games. But anyway, I wish there were people that could have answered some questions, because we didn't have the benefit of the internet to just go look things up. So it was trial and error, or buying books, or hoping that you knew someone that could answer some questions. And honestly, I just didn't have that. So now we have the internet, we have videos, and that's cool, because now we can ask each other questions, we can share information, we can learn from each other. So I learn from a lot of the guys that are out there. I mean, the two that come to mind I've mentioned before, Frugal and Matt Davies, but there are a lot of people who put up some really good content, and sometimes you just have a technical question and they're able to address it. So all that being said, I've really liked my channel to be beneficial to those that are new to flight simulation and might have a question. And the fact that you have given me such positive feedback, I really thank you. I don't have a bazillion followers. It's like maybe 400, trying to crack 500. But the followers that I have, subscribers, you've been very supportive. You've said the most wonderful things. And you keep encouraging me to give you more content, which is exactly what I intend to do. So all that being said, now I'll bring this up. You see now that we're getting some overcast. So the scene is completely different. So if you were really flying, you may have started off with some VFR flying, and then all of a sudden the weather goes left and you are in IFR conditions. Great opportunity, or challenge to get your bearings and get where you're going. So I'm not going to waste your time. I hope you like this little discussion and just an opportunity to check out the eye candy. Now you might say, well, we didn't really see a whole lot of trees, but if you really look in the urban area that I've been showing you, the trees are intermixed in the urban area, which is exactly what you would have in an urban area. And it's so subtle that it blends in nicely and it doesn't stand out. It just helps with the feel. And I think that's what gives it its, what's the word I'm looking for? Its flavor. It just adds to the flavor of what you're doing. It's just not this standalone thing where it's like, wow, look at those trees. I can't help but notice them. They blend in and just make your situation that much more enjoyable. Well, again, this was Kent Wallace. Thanks for tuning in to the Flight Show, and I look forward to seeing you in the virtual skies.